journey started in church. I was raised in a Christian Episcopal church. There was a very good gospel choir there, and I was not old enough to sing in the choir. And one day I decided to sing a solo. And when I started singing, I was about 8 years old. And everybody started laughing because they thought, oh, no, little girl. And I opened my mouth, and the same voice came out that I have now, just about. And they were like this, and I was like this. And I heard God speak to me, and he said that you're going to be famous. This is power. You are never to misuse this power. In my head, I heard it very clearly. And I was like, I'm going to be famous. Wow. And so at that moment I knew, but when I opened my eyes, I just started crying. And then everybody else was crying in the whole church. And I thought, whoa, what's going on? And so that was the way I can remember the moment in my life when everything changed.
Donna Summer was born LaDonna Adrienne Gaines on December 31st, 1948, and she grew up in Boston's Mission Hill section. Part of a religious family, she first sung in her church's gospel choir, and as a teenager, she performed with a rock group called The Crow. After high school, she moved to New York to sing and act in stage productions, and soon landed a role in a German production of Hair. She moved to Europe around 1968-1969 and spent a year in the German cast, after which she became part of the Hair company in Vienna.
Get here, and how was your first impression of Germany? Also, like in this special frame of time.
Well, when I first came, I was about 18, 19 years old, and the very first day I went there, well, I should tell you the story about how I came there. We have to go back before I came, okay? So,
Okay.
I was walking in the street one day in New York, and I had seen something on TV before that, and they were talking about the people on the Bowery. That's a part of New York, and there are many men who take too much alcohol, they're drunk, and they don't have any homes anymore. Well, I was a very, church girl, so I wanted to go there because I wanted to talk to them and tell them God loved them and they can get their life back, and I felt this real compulsion to go there. So I was with my band in New York, and we got a record deal that day, and they all wanted to go celebrate, and I said, can one of you just take me to the Bowery? And I said, that's what I really, really want to do. And so I went to the Bowery, and as I was walking down the street, a man came towards me, and he was completely lit. He looked very odd. There was light coming out of his face. And I said to the guy that went with me, his name was Bruce, I said, Bruce, look at that man. And we were on a street, and there were no doorways. It was a side street, and it was the two buildings together, and it was one big long wall. So there was no place for him to come from. I don't know where he came from. I didn't see him in the beginning. So I stood still, and he kept walking towards me, and he grabbed me by my hand, and he said, I want to talk to you. And I thought, oh, he's a man from the street, maybe he's not so clean. And and he said, be at peace, and I calmed down. And then he said, I want to tell you about your future. And I said, okay. I never went to, a person like that in my life, and I didn't expect this, but I listened. And he said, you're going to meet a man. You're going to take a test. You're going to pass the test. You're going to have an opportunity to cross the water. You are to cross the waters. You're going to meet another man. And then he says, you're going to have all these possibilities are going to come to you. You have a creative gift. You have a writing gift. And so you are to use that gift. You are to write. You are gifted. And he told me other things that I don't remember. Anyway, so the next day I met a man. He asked me to audition for Hair. I auditioned for Hair. There were 300 people that day. They took two. I was the next to the last person they saw. And they took me and the boy after me. They asked me during the audition, can you go someplace to Europe? We're opening some new companies. And I said, oh yes, where can I go? And they said, well, we have London, France, and Germany. My father was in Germany during the war, and I I wanted to go to Germany. I wanted to learn to speak German. And so I said, I'd like to go to Germany. And so they said, okay, go home and get your passport. And in 2 weeks, we call you in the next couple of days and get ready, go get your passport, and we're going to arrange everything. That's how I got to Germany. And so I was then showing up at Theater on the Brianna Strasse, and that is where I met Ron Williams.
Talking about Hair, what made this musical so special at that time? Why did it have such a big impact worldwide?
Well, I originally saw Hair in New York. I saw the original company of Hair, and I saw all the original people, Melba Moore and Lamont Washington, who passed away. And when I went to see the show in New York, which was right in the same time that I auditioned for the show, Lamont Washington, before he passed away, he came up to me and he gave me a flower and he said, you should be in the show. And I felt like it was, I get goosebumps, Gänsehaut. And I knew it was the day before the audition, and I knew that I was going to be in the show after that. I think the show was very revolutionary. It was risque. It was progressive for the time, very progressive. And I think that young people wanted to break out. They were tired of what they saw being the status quo. And I think this musical and this kind of movement all fit into the whole hippie movement and, love, power, and so forth. And I think that that's why it was so successful.
She joined the Viennese folk opera and later returned to Germany, where she settled in Munich and met and married Helmut Summer, adopting an anglicized version of his last name. Summer performed in various stage musicals and worked as a studio vocalist in Munich, recording demos and background vocals. Her first solo recording was 1971's Sally Go Round the Roses, but success would not come until 1974, when she met producers, songwriters Giorgio Moroder and Pete Bellet, while working on a Three Dog Night record. The three teamed up for the single The Hostage, which became a hit around Western Europe, and Summer released her first album, Lady of the Night, in Europe only.
Well, I did Hair, and then I went on to do Godspell and The Me Nobody Knows, and then I went to Vienna to do Showboat and Porgy and Bess. So I was in the theater for quite a while, and maybe about 6 to 8 years. And at the tail end of that, I ran into Giorgio Moroder, and that is where the pop singing started. And it actually started in Holland, not in Germany. And the first song that I had a big success with in Holland was called L'Otage, or The Hostage. And it made a lot of waves, and it was it was even kind of controversial, but it was like European pop. It wasn't American pop. And after that, I went from, Holland to Belgium, Luxembourg, France. It kind of started to spread. And afterwards, I started to write with Giorgio, and we wrote Love to Love You, Baby.
In 1975, the trio recorded Love to Love You, Baby, initially intending it for another artist. Producers liked Summer's demo version so much that they decided to make it her song instead. The final version, released in the United States, an unprecedented 17 minutes long, featured Summer's tantalizingly soft vocals and sensual moaning. Sounds so suggestive, in fact, that many radio stations initially refused to play the song.
I was at home actually one afternoon, and I don't know, I just was playing in my mind, recreatively writing words, and I said, I love you. I love loving you. I love to love you. And I kind of came up with the Love to Love You. And I called Giorgio and I said, Giorgio, I think I have an idea for a song, because at that point I was doing some demos for him, but he was writing them. And I said, I have this really good idea. And I kept singing the thought to myself. So I went over to the studio and to his office, and I sang it to him in his ear. And he was like, Donna, yeah, he disappeared. And then I was in my apartment, and at the time my phone was broken, and he sent his girlfriend over, and he says, you must come right now to the studio. And I said, why? She said, well, Giorgio worked on that song you gave him. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went over to the studio, and he had done a track. And I started recording the track. And it was kind of funny because, it was a very sexy track, and it was, I love the music. But I didn't know how to approach the song because, normally I have a pretty big voice. So when I would try to belt the song, it wasn't working. So I had to think of somebody who I could see singing the song and sing it from their point of view. And I thought of Marilyn Monroe. And how would Marilyn sing the song? So I made them shut all the lights very soft, some candle in the room. I kind of laid on the floor. I took the microphone because I had to look at three men looking at me sing a sexy song. I know them. I don't want to look at them. So, so I began to sing the song. And that was the first version of Love to Love You Baby. We did the song. I didn't want to sing the song because it was too sexy to me for me. I thought somebody else should sing the song, but maybe we put make a demo, and then we send it to another girl and she can sing it and everybody's happy. So Giorgio didn't tell me this, but he took the song to meet him, and he sold the song to Neil Bogart, who had Casablanca Records. I had no knowledge of it. I didn't have a contract. I didn't sign anything, no publishing, nothing. So the next thing I know, I got very, very ill for about 2 months. I was in the hospital for a month, and I was in bed for another month. And then this is right after I recorded Love to Love You Baby. And this is while Giorgio was in Medium and all this. In that time, I was in the hospital. Nobody knew where I was at. I was in in Schwarzwald, and I had a problem with my heart at the time. And so I was there for a month, and then I was home in bed for a month. And then at the end of that, I had a 10-day, cruise on a ship. And so I went on the 10-day cruise, but when I came home, there were flowers and dead flowers in bottles a lot in front of my door. I didn't know why they were there. I thought somebody was trying to do voodoo on me. I did. And so, strike that. So then Giorgio's girlfriend came over again and said, you have to go with me. We have to buy you clothes. You have to go to Europe. She said, his girlfriend came, Helga. She picked me up. She said, Giorgio wants to meet with you. We have to go buy clothes for you for America. I said, what are you talking about? She says, you got to go to America now. They put your record out. I'm like, I don't have a record. What are you talking about? I had no knowledge of any of it. And I had no contract, nothing. And it was already out there. I couldn't pull it back at that point. It was gone. And life as I knew it was over in that moment. And so I went shopping with Giorgio. We bought a pile of clothes, and we went to America. And that was the beginning of my life in America.
In the wake of Love to Love You Baby, albums, as opposed to just singles, became an important forum for Summer and her producers. The 1976 follow-up Love Trilogy contained another side-long suite in Try Me, I Know We Can Make It Work, and demonstrated Moroder and Bellet growing sophistication as arrangers with its lush, sweeping strings. 4 Seasons of Love, released later in the year, was a concept album with 1 track dedicated to each season. And 1977's I Remember Yesterday featured a variety of genre exercises. Despite the album's title, it produced the most forward-looking single in Summer and Moroder's catalog, the monumental I Feel Love. Avoiding the strings and typical disco grandeur, I Feel Love was the first major pop hit recorded with an entirely synthesized backing track. Its lean, sleek arrangement and driving hypnotic pulse laid the groundwork not only for countless Eurodance imitators, but also for the techno revolution of the 80s and 90s. It became Summer's second top 10 hit in the US, and she followed it with Once Upon a Time, another concept album, this one retelling the story of Cinderella for the disco era. Summer's albums were selling well, bolstered by her popularity in the dance clubs, and she was poised to become a major pop hitmaker as well. Her acting in the 1978 disco-themed comedy movie Thank God It's Friday produced another hit in Last Dance, which won her a Grammy for Best Female R&B Vocal, as well as an Oscar for songwriter Paul Jabara. Doubtlessly benefiting from the added exposure, the double LP set Live and More became Summer's first #1 album later that year. It featured one side of new studio material, including a disco cover of the psychedelic pop epic MacArthur Park that became her first #1 pop single earlier the next year. Her 1979 double LP Bad Girls featured more of her songwriting contributions than ever and went straight to #1, as did the lusty singles Bad Girls, co-written with her husband Bruce Sudano, and Hot Stuff, which made Summer the first female artist to ever to score 3 #1 singles in the same calendar year. Hot Stuff also won that year's Grammy for Best Rock Vocal Performance Female. Her greatest hits package on the radio topped the Billboard 200, the first time any artist had ever hit #1 with 3 consecutive double LPs. The newly recorded title track became another hit, and Summer's duet with Barbra Streisand, No More Tears, Enough Is Enough, became her 4th #1 single. At the height of her success, Summer decided to leave Casablanca and became the first artist signed to the new Geffen label. Sensing that the disco era was coming to an end, Summer modified her style to include more R&B and pop rock on her first Geffen album, 1980's The Wanderer. The album and its title track were both hits. Not wanting to alienate her core audience, Summer returned to pure dance music on an attempted follow-up. However, Geffen deemed I'm a Rainbow not worthy of release. It was finally issued in 1996. Instead, Summer ended her collaboration with Moroder and Bellet and teamed up with Quincy Jones for 1982's Donna Summer. Love Is in Control, Finger on the Trigger was a significant hit. With producer Michael Amartyan, Summer moved back into post-disco dance music and contemporary R&B with 1983's She Works Hard for the Money. Its title track was another crossover smash, given an extra boost by its highly choreographed video, and was nominated for multiple MTV Video Awards. At the same time, Summer had success with faith-based material, He's a Rebel, also off She Works Hard for the Money, and Forgive Me, off 1984's Cats Without Claws, made Summer a back-to-back winner of the Grammy Award for Best Inspirational Performance. After the 1987 effort All Systems Go, Summer hired the British production team of Stock, Aitken, and Waterman and scored her last major mainstream hit with the 1989 top 10 single, This Time I Know It's For Real, from the album Another Place and Time.
Yeah, but she's back with a bang with a new single, This Time I Know It's For Real, which, as we hear, shot straight into the charts at number 30. So good morning to you, Donna.
Good morning.
Donna Summer, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's pretty... how much attention do you pay to the charts? Do you pay a lot of attention to them?
I never read them.
You never read them?
No.
So the fact that it's 30 doesn't bother you either way, particularly?
No, I don't even know that it's 30. You told me. Well, I do, actually. Somebody told me yesterday. But I follow the charts because I find that if you do that, you have an insomnia and everything else that goes with it. So I figure when it's in the top 10 or the top 5, someone's going to go, your record's a big hit.
so the easy way to lead a calm and relaxed life is not to read about those charts, is it?
No. Yeah.
Well, I guess you could have predicted, because you better announce who the producers of the record are.
I what?
You better announce who the producers of the record are. It's predictable, really.
Yeah, sure. Stock, Aitken, and Waterman. Yeah.
Why, tell me, now that you've worked with them, what do you see as the reasons for their success?
They're very diligent, and they have a dream. And I think whenever you have a dream and you really work towards it very hard, the possibilities are there. You make it real, and they...
Is there a danger in the same producers producing so many hits? Is there a danger that different artists will start to sound rather similar?
I think the only danger is that the producers will probably become very rich very quickly. And I don't think that's a danger. I think that the business is interesting because you have periods of success, major success, and periods of calm. And if you really have an idea of how that flows, you know that when it's harvest time, you harvest. And then when it's planting time, you plant. So it's sort of, I think that, I don't think it's a big deal.
In fact, you were performing on Wogan last night, weren't you? And I saw that. And it's a very Donna Summer single.
I mean, it is.
It's very
it's what
you.
people
It's
think
not,
of
it's not
me.
anybody else.
Right, yeah.
Do you perform in front of do you practice your dance routines in front of Mimi, Brooklyn, and Amanda, age 16, 8, and 6, your 3 lovely daughters?
Well, actually, Mimi's the one that usually teaches me everything. There's one that was going like
great.
this.
I like all that.
I'm trying.
Is she proud of you?
Oh, my daughters are great. They're really, they go to a school, and all of the teachers are telling me all the time that your kids are so wonderful. And that really makes me feel good because they're without me a lot.
They certainly bring you down to earth, don't you? I mean, I was pretending to be a heavy rock guitarist last night, and my younger daughter said, you're a Wally.
I bet they were really impressed.
That's funny.
Right, well, enough of this, Michael. I think it's about time we took a look and took a listen as well to Donna's new single. This time, I Know It's For Real, another definite winner from the Stock, Aitken and Waterman stable.
She released only one proper album the following decade, 1991's Mistaken Identity, but she did make some noise in clubs with Melody of Love from the 1994 retrospective Endless Summer, and reunited with Moroder for the 1997 non-LP single Carry On, which won the inaugural Grammy for Best Dance Recording. Summer subsequently signed a deal with Sony, which primed her for re-establishment with 1999's VH1 Presents Live and More Encore, a recording that featured the new song I Will Go With You, Contemporaries, another #1 club hit. After a couple additional non-album singles, she released the energetic and eclectic Crayons. 4 of its singles scaled to the top of the dance chart. Summer remained intermittently active with concert and TV appearances during the next several years, and released To Paris With Love, her final chart-topping single, in 2010. Summer died on May 17, 2012, at age 63, after a year-long battle with cancer. Known as the Queen of Disco, Summer will be remembered as perhaps the greatest singer in disco history. But she was so much more. A vocalist of incredible range and power, whose voice was equally at home in German language show tunes, racy disco dance tracks, and powerful gospel ballads.
You have. What keeps you grounded, like living in show business for such a long time?
Well, first of all, I have a very strong faith in God. I think that's number one. Because no matter what has gone on in my career, up and down, bad, good, life, death, you know, I've always managed to survive it because I have a strong faith in God. And I know that I have there's a reason for me to be here. There have been times I didn't think there was, but there is a reason. And so I think that is the most grounding factor for me. I wouldn't be coming back. I wouldn't be able to come back if I didn't have the faith that I could. So I think faith is probably the number one thing that you need beyond loving something. You know, you can love something and not have the faith to do it. And I think as a performer, when you're used to being on stage and used to making other people happy, it's part of you. It's part of your call in life. And my goal is to make other people happy.
Don't forget to comment below, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.